The Pre-Raphaelites were a group of young art students who set out to revolutionise British art, and really they were the first British modern art movement.
They felt art should be important, significant, much more truthful, not conventional, but looking at the new world. This was kind of quite interesting timing. It was 1848, and in 1848, many other countries in Europe had popular revolutions. And suddenly there was part of this revolutionary spirit about these art students.
The group, they called themselves the Brotherhood, were formed by Dante Gabriel Rossetti, William Holman Hunt and John Everett Millais.
They got themselves up to the number of 7 and they called themselves the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. The key word there is Raphaelite. What they didn't like, they had nothing against Raphael or any of those sort of great artists. What they didn't like was people who sort of just used them as a shortcut to their own style, the Raphaelites.
The Pre-Raphaelites were absolutely adamant that they wanted to make paintings that were really rich in their meanings, and so they very often took ideas for subjects from the literature they really admired, Shakespeare, Keats and so on. They also took ideas from the Bible. Millais painted Christ in the house of his parents. Jesus and his family had been painted as everyday working people, and Millais went out and he got a grocer to model for the figure of Joseph so he could show sort of arms, muscular working arms. The public were horrified by this because they were used to seeing, particularly the Holy Family, idealised, again like a Raphael. But what Millais was exploring was the dignity of real life, the dignity of labour. So again, this reflects on their politics of the time. The Pre-Raphaelites adopted only the brightest colours, and sometimes these were very traditional colours used by the early Italian artists, and sometimes they were new modern industrial pigments like this vibrant emerald green that you see both in Ophelia and our English coasts. And they'd use very tiny brushes to apply the colour, and they'd mix it with a little bit of varnish so you get this unbelievably smooth, almost mirror-like surface. They would then paint every tiny part of the painting in front of the subject. A sublime example of this is again Millais' Ophelia. Millais actually brings us to the banks of the river. There's no sky in that painting. We're completely immersed in nature as Ophelia is. And he sat there all summer, all autumn, painting every leaf, every blade of grass, the ripples in the water. The wealth of detail in a Pre-Raphaelite painting also conveys a wealth of meaning. Grass that's been flattened in a struggle, a flower which sort of can be interpreted through the Victorian language of flowers. Every single detail tells you something about the invisible aspects of the scene. I find endless fascination in the way they paint hands. Every single hand is telling you something about what that person is thinking. I think the Pre-Raphaelites brought a new, intimate personal quality to painting. They examine characters and their settings in intense detail so that you get this new psychological realism as well as visual realism. Victorians are thought of as rather dogmatic figures, but Pre-Raphaelite paintings do not tell you, they ask you.